The notification sound from Beth's phone cut through the silence of our bedroom at 2:17 a.m. She was dead asleep beside me, her breathing steady and peaceful, completely unaware that her digital life was about to blow up in spectacular fashion. I'd been awake for hours, staring at the ceiling, thinking about all the little things that hadn't added up lately, the mysterious girls' nights that lasted until dawn, the new lingerie I never got to see her wear, the way she'd started taking her phone everywhere, even to the bathroom. My name is Jamie Parrish, and I'm not the kind of guy who usually plays detective. I run a mid-sized electrical contracting business here in Portland, Maine, with my business partner Marco. I fix things for a living: broken circuits, faulty wiring, power outages. But apparently, I'd missed the biggest electrical failure of all: the complete short circuit of my marriage. Beth's phone buzzed again. The screen lit up, casting a pale glow across her face. Without thinking, I reached over and grabbed it. The message was from Kelly, Beth's best friend since college. "Did you tell him about tonight? About Nate?" My blood went cold. Nate Hoffman, my older brother's former army buddy, now some hotshot business consultant who'd been sniffing around our social circle for months. The same Nate who'd been asking way too many questions about my work schedule lately. I scrolled up through their conversation, my hands shaking slightly. What I found made my stomach drop through the floor. "He'll never find out," Beth had texted Kelly just 3 hours earlier. "Jamie's so clueless. He actually believes I'm at book club every Thursday." Book club. Jesus Christ, I'd been proud of her for joining a book club. My fingers moved before my brain could stop them. I typed back from Beth's phone. "He already did." Then I powered off the phone, set it back on her nightstand, and got dressed in the dark. You see, I'd been preparing for this moment for 3 weeks. Not because I knew about Nate specifically, but because I'm not actually as clueless as my wife thought. When someone you love starts acting like a stranger, you notice. When they start guarding their phone like it contains nuclear launch codes, you pay attention. And when they start making excuses that don't add up, you start making plans. I'd already been monitoring her cloud backup, something she'd forgotten she'd given me access to years ago when she got her first iPhone. I'd seen the deleted messages, the location data showing her at the Riverside Inn every Thursday instead of the library, the credit card charges for lingerie from Victoria's Secret that never made it home. 3 weeks ago, I'd quietly transferred half our joint savings into a separate account. 2 weeks ago, I'd moved my most important possessions to a storage unit across town. 1 week ago, I'd filed separation papers with my lawyer, Tom Brennan, who'd been a friend since high school. And this morning, well, yesterday morning now, I'd had the locks changed on our house while Beth was at her book club. I grabbed my pre-packed duffel bag from the closet and headed downstairs. On the kitchen counter, I left 3 things: divorce papers, a flash drive labeled evidence, and a handwritten note that simply said, "Your lawyer can contact mine. J." The flash drive contained everything: screenshots of deleted messages going back 4 months, GPS location data, hotel receipts charged to our joint credit card, photos of her and Nate that Kelly had stupidly posted on social media and then quickly deleted, not knowing I'd already saved them. But the real kicker was the recording I'd made 2 days ago. See, Kelly had called me on Tuesday, crying her eyes out. Apparently Beth had been pressuring her to lie for months, and Kelly's conscience was finally getting to her. She'd confessed everything over coffee at Murphy's Diner: how Beth and Nate had been having an affair since February, how they'd been using Kelly's apartment for their meetings when the hotel felt too risky, how Beth had been planning to ask for a divorce but wanted to secure her financial future first by hiding assets and building a case for maximum alimony. Kelly had even agreed to let me record our conversation. "She's not the person I thought she was," Kelly had said, tears streaming down her face. "She threatened to ruin my reputation if I didn't help her, but I can't live with this anymore." As I loaded my bag into my truck, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Relief, not happiness. That would come later. But relief that I wasn't crazy, that my instincts had been right, and that I'd managed to stay 3 steps ahead of someone who thought she was playing chess while I was playing checkers. I drove to the 24-hour diner on Congress Street and ordered coffee and eggs. My phone was buzzing constantly, first with calls from Beth's number, then from Kelly's, then from numbers I didn't recognize. I let them all go to voicemail. At exactly 6 a.m., I called my lawyer. "Tom? It's Jamie. Yeah, I know it's early. Remember those papers we filed last week? Well, it's time to serve them." Beth found me at Marco's apartment around noon. I'd been expecting her. Kelly had probably cracked under pressure and told her where I might be. What I hadn't expected was for her to show up with Nate in tow. Marco answered the door, took one look at the situation, and stepped aside with a grin. This should be good, he muttered. Beth stormed into the living room like a hurricane in designer jeans and a cashmere sweater, the outfit she'd probably planned to wear to impress her lover, now repurposed for confronting her soon-to-be ex-husband. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" she screamed, waving the divorce papers in my face. "You can't just disappear in the middle of the night like some kind of coward." I looked up from my coffee, completely calm. Coward? That's interesting, coming from someone who's been sneaking around for 4 months instead of having an honest conversation about our marriage. Nate stepped forward, all 6 feet of military posture and misplaced confidence. "Look, Jamie, this doesn't have to get ugly. We're all adults here." I stood up slowly, enjoying the fact that I was actually taller than him by a couple inches. "You're right, Nate. We are all adults, which is why you should have acted like one instead of screwing another man's wife." "It's not like that," Beth interjected, but her voice lacked conviction. "Jamie, we need to talk, privately." "No," I said simply. "We really don't. You had 4 months to talk to me. Instead, you chose to talk to him." I nodded toward Nate. "And Kelly? And apparently half the Riverside Inn staff, based on how comfortable you seem to get there." Beth's face went white. "You've been spying on me?" "I've been paying attention. There's a difference." I pulled out my phone and opened the voice memo app. "Would you like to hear what Kelly told me on Tuesday? She was very thorough." For the first time since she'd burst through the door, Beth looked genuinely scared. "Kelly wouldn't... She's my best friend." "Was," I corrected. "Past tense. Turns out she has a conscience, unlike some people in this room." I hit play on the recording. Kelly's voice filled the apartment, shaky but clear. "She made me lie for her, Jamie. I'm so sorry. She said if I didn't help her, she'd tell everyone that I was the one having the affair. She threatened to destroy my marriage, my job, everything." Beth sank into Marco's recliner, the fight going out of her like air from a punctured tire. Nate, meanwhile, looked like he was calculating his exit strategy. "This is all a misunderstanding," Nate said, but his voice cracked slightly. "Beth and I are just friends. We've been helping each other through some difficult times." I laughed. Actually laughed out loud. "Difficult times? Is that what we're calling it? Because I have hotel receipts that suggest your friendship got pretty expensive. Room service, champagne, those little chocolate-covered strawberries. Very friendly." Marco, who'd been watching this whole exchange like it was his personal entertainment, finally spoke up. "Dude, you should probably leave. Like now." Nate looked at Beth, clearly expecting her to say something in his defense. When she just sat there staring at the floor, he headed for the door. "This is insane. Beth, call me when you've sorted this out." "Don't hold your breath," I called after him. "She's going to be pretty busy with lawyers for the next few months." After Nate left, Beth finally looked up at me. For a moment, I saw a flash of the woman I'd married 8 years ago. Vulnerable, scared, maybe even sorry. But then her expression hardened. "You think you're so smart," she said, "but you have no idea what you've done. I'll take you for everything you're worth." I sat back down and took a sip of my coffee. "Actually, Beth, I know exactly what I've done. I've documented 4 months of adultery, financial deception, and conspiracy to commit fraud. I've secured testimony from your co-conspirator. I've protected our joint assets from further misuse. And I've made sure that when this goes to court, the judge will have a very clear picture of who the injured party is." Her mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. "You can't prove anything." I pulled out the flash drive I'd made a copy of and set it on the coffee table between us. "GPS data showing you at the Riverside Inn every Thursday for 3 months. Credit card records showing charges for hotel rooms, lingerie, and romantic dinners that I never attended. Text messages discussing your plans to take me for everything while continuing your affair. And Kelly's recorded testimony about how you manipulated and threatened her." I leaned forward, my voice calm but cold. "Beth, you played a game you thought you couldn't lose, but you forgot one important thing. I'm an electrician. I'm really, really good at finding where the power is coming from and shutting it off." She stood up abruptly, her face flushed with anger and embarrassment. "This isn't over." "Yes," I said quietly. "It is." After she left, Marco cracked open a beer even though it wasn't even 1 p.m. yet. "Damn, Jamie. Remind me never to cross you." I smiled for the first time in weeks. Don't cheat on your wife and you'll be fine. But even as I joked with Marco, I knew Beth was right about one thing. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. The next few days passed in a blur of lawyer meetings, paperwork, and the kind of small-town gossip that spreads faster than a grease fire. Portland, Maine isn't exactly a tiny place, but the social circles Beth and I moved in were small enough that news of our separation was front-page material in the unofficial newspaper of local coffee shops and bars. I was having lunch at Becky's Diner on Thursday when I overheard two women at the next table discussing that poor parish boy whose wife ran off with that military contractor. The details were wrong, but the general sentiment was clear. The story was out there, and it was spreading. My phone rang as I was finishing my lobster roll. Unknown number. Jamie Parrish. Mr. Parrish, this is Carol Watterson, Beth's mother. I nearly choked on my food. Beth's parents lived down in Kennebunkport and usually treated me like I was some blue-collar peasant who'd somehow tricked their precious daughter into marriage. Carol calling me directly was like the Pope calling to discuss my plumbing problems. Mrs. Watterson, how can I help you? There was a long pause. I think you know why I'm calling. Beth told us about the situation. Did she tell you the whole situation, or just her version of it? Another pause. She said you'd been spying on her and that you left her without warning because of some misunderstanding with a friend. I set down my sandwich and pulled out my phone. Mrs. Watterson, I'm going to send you an email. I think you should read it before we continue this conversation. Jamie, I don't think... Please, just read the email, then call me back if you want to talk. I hung up and immediately forwarded Carol the same evidence package I'd given my lawyer. Screenshots of Beth's text messages, hotel receipts, GPS data, and Kelly's recorded confession. Everything laid out in chronological order with a brief explanation of how I discovered the affair. My phone rang again 20 minutes later. This time, Carol's voice was completely different. Oh my God, Jamie. I had no idea. She told us you'd become paranoid and controlling, that you were making accusations based on nothing. I wish that were true, Mrs. Watterson. I really do. Those text messages, the things she said about you, about your marriage. I don't recognize my own daughter. I could hear her crying softly. Despite everything, I felt bad for her. I'm sorry you had to find out this way. Don't you dare apologize. You have nothing to be sorry for. Her voice hardened. That man, Nate Hoffman, Beth brought him to Sunday dinner last month, introduced him as a family friend who was helping her with some business ideas. The whole time they were... Yeah, I'm calling her father right now. We'll be driving up to Portland tonight. This ends now. After Carol hung up, I sat in my truck in the diner parking lot, feeling a mixture of satisfaction and sadness. I'd never wanted to hurt Beth's parents. They were decent people, even if they'd always looked down on me. But Beth had forced this situation, and now everyone was going to pay the price for her choices. My phone buzzed with a text from Marco. Dude, you need to get to Murphy's Bar ASAP, trust me. Murphy's was our usual hangout spot, a working-class dive bar where the beer was cheap and the conversation was cheaper. I found Marco at our regular table in the back, nursing a Budweiser and trying not to laugh. What's so urgent? I asked, sliding into the booth across from him. He nodded toward the bar. Look who decided to show up for happy hour. I turned around and saw Beth and Nate sitting at the bar, drinks in hand, looking like they were trying way too hard to appear casual and happy. Beth was wearing a tight black dress I'd never seen before, and Nate had his arm around her waist possessively. They've been here for an hour, Marco said quietly. Acting like some kind of power couple, buying drinks for people, telling anyone who'll listen that you're the one who cheated and that they found comfort in each other. I felt my jaw clench. Is anyone buying it? Marco grinned. That's the beautiful part. Half the people in here know you, and the other half have already heard the real story through the gossip mill. They're basically humiliating themselves and don't even realize it. As if on cue, Beth spotted me across the bar. She whispered something to Nate, and they both turned to stare at me. Then Beth did something that surprised me. She raised her glass in a mock toast and called out loud enough for the whole bar to hear, "To new beginnings and honest relationships." The bar went dead quiet. Every conversation stopped. Even the bartender, old Mickey Sullivan, paused in the middle of wiping down a glass. I stood up slowly and walked over to the bar. The crowd parted like the Red Sea, everyone sensing that something big was about to happen. Beth, I said calmly, I think you might want to reconsider that toast. She smiled, but it was cold and calculated. Why? Are you going to make a scene, Jamie? Going to embarrass yourself in front of all these people? I pulled out my phone and connected it to the bar's Bluetooth speaker system, a little upgrade I'd installed for Mickey last year as a favor. Actually, I thought maybe we could share some of your thoughts about honest relationships. Before she could react, I played the recording of her conversation with Kelly from the previous week, when Kelly had called her to confess about talking to me. Beth's voice filled the bar, crystal clear. "You stupid bitch. Do you have any idea what you've done? I was so close to getting everything set up perfectly. Another few weeks, and I could have filed for divorce with evidence that Jamie was neglecting me, maybe even abusing me. Nate was going to back up my story." The bar erupted. People started shouting, some at Beth, some at Nate, some just making general noise of shock and disgust. Beth's face went from confident to horrified in about 3 seconds. But I wasn't done. I let the recording continue. "Kelly, you're going to fix this. You're going to call Jamie and tell him you made everything up. Tell him you were jealous of our marriage and wanted to cause trouble. If you don't, I'll destroy you. I'll tell everyone you've been stealing from the charity fund at work. I'll tell your husband about that kiss you gave Tom Henderson at the Christmas party." By now, Beth was trying to push through the crowd toward the door, but people weren't exactly making way for her. Nate had abandoned ship entirely, slipping out the back exit like the coward he was. I turned off the recording and addressed the bar. "Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you an honest relationship." Mickey Sullivan, who'd been tending bar in this neighborhood for 30 years and had seen everything, looked at Beth with pure disgust. "Get out of my bar, and don't come back." Beth finally made it to the door, but she turned around one last time. "You'll pay for this, Jamie. I'll make sure you lose everything." I raised my beer. Marco had thoughtfully brought me one while I was dealing with the drama. "Too late, Beth. I already lost the only thing that mattered. Turns out it wasn't much of a loss after all." The bar erupted in applause and laughter. People I barely knew were patting me on the back, buying me drinks, telling me I was better off without her. But as satisfying as the moment was, I knew it was just the beginning. Beth wasn't the type to go quietly, and neither was Nate. They'd regroup, come up with a new plan, probably try to turn this whole thing around on me somehow. Good thing I was already 3 steps ahead of them. 2 weeks later, I was working late at the shop when my business phone rang. It was almost 8 p.m., well past normal business hours, but electrical emergencies don't follow a schedule. "Parish Electric, this is Jamie." "Jamie, it's Tom Brennan." My lawyer sounded stressed. "We need to talk, tonight." "What's wrong?" "Beth and her new legal team just filed a countersuit. They're claiming you've been stalking and harassing her, that you illegally accessed her personal communications, and that you've been conducting a campaign of public humiliation designed to damage her reputation and mental health." I sat down heavily in my desk chair. "That's ridiculous. Everything I did was legal. The cloud backup access was legitimate. She gave me her passwords years ago. The recording with Kelly was consensual. And the bar thing was just playing back her own words." I know. But they're also claiming that you've been following her, taking pictures of her and Nate, and that you've enlisted friends and family members to harass them both." "Tom, I haven't been anywhere near Beth since that day at Marco's apartment, and I certainly haven't been taking pictures of anyone." "That's what I figured. But Jamie, they have photos. Someone's been following them, and whoever it is has been sloppy about it. Beth's lawyer says they have evidence of surveillance that goes beyond anything you've admitted to." My blood ran cold. "Send me the photos. I'll email them now. But Jamie, if this isn't you, then we have a bigger problem. Someone else is involved in this mess, and they're not being as careful as you were." I hung up and checked my email. The photos Tom sent made my stomach drop. They showed Beth and Nate at various locations around Portland, restaurants, Nate's apartment building, even the grocery store. But they were taken from strange angles, like someone was hiding behind cars or in bushes. The quality was poor, and some of them were clearly taken with a long telephoto lens. This wasn't professional surveillance. This was amateur stalking, and it was going to destroy my case if I couldn't figure out who was doing it. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Check your email. We need to talk. A friend." The email contained a single photo that made everything clear. It showed Kelly sitting in a car across from Nate's apartment building, a camera with a long lens in her hands. The timestamp was from 3 days ago. Kelly was still playing both sides. I called the number that had texted me. "Jamie?" Kelly's voice was shaky and scared. "What the hell are you doing, Kelly?" "I'm trying to help you. Beth doesn't know I'm doing this. I thought if I could get more evidence of their affair, it would help your case." "Kelly, you're not a private investigator. This looks like stalking, and now Beth's lawyers are using it against me. They think I'm the one taking these pictures." "Oh God, I never thought—" "Jamie, I'm so sorry. I was just trying to make up for lying for her all those months." "Where are you right now?" I'm outside Nate's apartment. They're in there together. I was going to try to get photos of them together in the window." "Kelly, listen to me very carefully. Go home, right now. Don't take any more pictures. Don't follow them anywhere else. And tomorrow morning, you're going to call my lawyer and explain exactly what you've been doing. But what if Beth finds out I've been helping you? She'll destroy me, Jamie. You heard what she said on that recording. She's going to destroy both of us if you keep this up. The stalking photos are going to make me look like a psycho, and when they figure out it was you, it's going to look like I put you up to it. Kelly was crying now. I just wanted to fix this. I felt so guilty about lying for her. I know, but this isn't the way. Go home, Kelly. We'll figure out how to handle this tomorrow. After I hung up, I sat in my office trying to figure out how to salvage this situation. Kelly's well-intentioned but completely misguided surveillance operation had just handed Beth and Nate a huge advantage. Now they could claim I was orchestrating a harassment campaign, and they had photographic evidence to back it up. My phone rang again. This time it was a number I recognized, Beth's new cell phone. What do you want, Beth? I want to make a deal. Her voice was calm, almost businesslike. Meet me tomorrow night at the Riverside Inn. Room 237. Come alone. Why would I do that? Because if you don't, those stalking photos are going to the police tomorrow morning, along with a restraining order that will keep you away from me, away from our house, and probably away from your business while they investigate. I wasn't the one taking those photos. Prove it. She paused. Jamie, I know we've both said and done things we regret, but this has gotten out of hand. People are getting hurt. Kelly's marriage is falling apart because of the stress. Nate's lost 2 consulting contracts because of the rumors. And you look like a crazy person to everyone who doesn't know the whole story. Despite everything, there was something in her voice that sounded like the old Beth, the woman I'd fallen in love with. What kind of deal? A clean divorce. No fault. We split everything 50-50, no alimony on either side. I dropped the harassment charges and you stopped the public humiliation campaign. There is no campaign, Beth. I played one recording at a bar. Everything else has been people making their own judgments based on the facts. Fine, whatever. The point is, this ends tomorrow night. We both walk away and start over. I thought about it. A clean divorce would be faster and cheaper than a contested one, even if I had to give up more than I might have gotten with all my evidence. And if Beth was willing to drop the harassment charges, it would save me a lot of legal headaches. Room 237. What time? 9 o'clock. And Jamie? Don't bring any recording devices. Don't bring Marco or anyone else. This is just between us. After she hung up, I called Tom and filled him in on the conversation. It could be a trap, he warned. She might be planning to claim you threatened her or assaulted her. Hotel rooms aren't great places for negotiations. Maybe. But Tom, those stalking photos are going to be a problem no matter what. If I can end this tomorrow night with a reasonable settlement, it might be worth the risk. If you're going to do this, at least let me set up some protection. I know a guy who does private security. He can be in the lobby, maybe the room next door. Do it. But Beth can't know about it. As I locked up the shop and headed home to my temporary apartment, I couldn't shake the feeling that tomorrow night was going to change everything. The question was whether it would change in my favor or Beth's. Either way, I was going to be ready. Room 237 at the Riverside Inn was exactly what I'd expected. Generic hotel furniture, beige walls, and the faint smell of industrial carpet cleaner. Beth was already there when I arrived, sitting in the room's single chair like she was conducting a business meeting. She'd dressed conservatively, dark slacks, white blouse, her hair pulled back in a professional bun. This was Beth trying to look reasonable and mature. Thank you for coming, she said as I closed the door behind me. I wasn't sure you would. I'm here. Let's get this over with. She gestured to the bed. Please sit. We need to talk like adults. I remained standing. I'm fine where I am. You said you wanted to make a deal. What are the terms? Beth sighed and pulled out a folder from her purse. I had my lawyer draw up a preliminary agreement. 50-50 split of all assets, no alimony, mutual non-disclosure about the circumstances of our separation. Non-disclosure? Neither of us talks publicly about what happened. No more recordings played in bars, no more social media posts, no more involving our families and friends in our personal business. I took the papers and skimmed through them. On the surface, they looked reasonable, maybe too reasonable. What about the harassment charges? Dropped, completely, as long as you agree to these terms and the surveillance stops immediately. Beth, I told you, I'm not the one. I know. She looked down at her hands. I know it's Kelly. I figured it out 3 days ago when I spotted her car outside Nate's building. I stared at her. You knew it was Kelly and you still tried to blame me? I was angry and scared. Jamie, this whole situation has spiraled completely out of control. I never wanted it to get this ugly. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Then why did you do it? Why the affair? Why the lies and manipulation? If you were unhappy, why didn't you just ask for a divorce? Beth was quiet for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. Because I was scared I couldn't make it on my own. I haven't worked in 5 years. I don't have any real skills or experience. I thought if I could prove you were a bad husband, I could get enough alimony to support myself while I figured out what to do next. And Nate? Nate was exciting. He made me feel young and desirable and important. He talked about taking me traveling, showing me the world beyond Portland. She laughed bitterly. Turns out he was just looking for a good time with a married woman. When things got complicated, he disappeared faster than you can imagine. I felt a strange mix of vindication and sadness. So where is he now? Gone. Left for a job in Seattle last week. Didn't even say goodbye. She looked up at me with tears in her eyes. I threw away 8 years of marriage for a man who couldn't be bothered to return my calls when things got difficult. Despite everything she'd put me through, I found myself sitting down on the edge of the bed. Beth, if you just talked to me about feeling trapped or wanting more independence, we could have worked something out. I would have supported you going back to school or starting a career. I know that now. But at the time, I felt so invisible. Like I was just Jamie Parrish's wife, not my own person. And when Nate started paying attention to me, it felt like I mattered again. We sat in silence for a few minutes. Finally, Beth wiped her eyes and straightened up. But that doesn't change what I did. I betrayed you, I lied to you, and I tried to manipulate the situation to my advantage. I don't expect forgiveness. I looked at the settlement papers again. This is really what you want? Clean break, no contact after the divorce is final? I think it's what we both need, a chance to start over without all this baggage. I was about to respond when I heard voices in the hallway outside. Loud voices, getting closer to our door. Told you she'd be here. I saw her car in the parking lot. Beth's face went white. Oh no, that's my father. The voices were right outside our door now. I could make out at least 3 different people, 2 men and a woman. Can't believe our daughter would do something like this. And in the same hotel where she was carrying on her affair? Someone pounded on the door. Elizabeth, open this door right now. Beth looked at me with panic in her eyes. They weren't supposed to find out about this meeting. I told them I was staying home tonight. The pounding got louder. We know you're in there. The desk clerk confirmed you checked in an hour ago. I stood up and moved toward the door. Beth, I think you need to talk to your parents. Jamie, please. If they see us together in a hotel room, they'll assume what? That we're trying to work things out like adults? But even as I said it, I realized she was right. This looked bad. Really bad. The door handle rattled. Elizabeth, if you don't open this door, I'm getting the manager up here with a key. Beth was crying again. This is a disaster. They're never going to believe this was just a business meeting. I looked around the room, taking in the single bed, the intimate lighting, the fact that we were both here voluntarily at night. Even I had to admit it looked suspicious. Maybe we should just explain the situation, I said. Tell them about the settlement negotiation. You don't understand. My father already thinks this whole divorce is my fault because of what you showed my mother. If he finds us together in a hotel room, he'll think I'm trying to manipulate you or seduce you into a better deal. The pounding stopped suddenly, replaced by the sound of a key card in the electronic lock. Too late, I said. The door swung open, revealing Beth's parents, and to my complete surprise, my own mother, Ruth Parrish. All 3 of them looked like they were ready for war. What the hell is going on here? Beth's father, Robert Watterson, demanded. He was a tall, stern man who'd made his money in real estate and never let anyone forget it. Daddy, it's not what it looks like, Beth started, but her mother cut her off. Not what it looks like? Elizabeth, you're in a hotel room with your husband while you're supposed to be negotiating a divorce. What exactly is it supposed to look like? My mother stepped forward, and I could see the disappointment in her eyes. Jamie, I thought you had more sense than this. Getting back together with her after everything she's put you through? Mom, we're not getting back together. We were trying to work out a settlement agreement. In a hotel room? Robert's face was getting red. Son, I may not have approved of this marriage, but I raised my daughter better than to conduct business in a bedroom. Beth stood up, her composure finally cracking completely. Stop it. All of you, just stop. Yes, I'm in a hotel room with Jamie. Yes, we're getting divorced. Yes, I had an affair and lied about it and made a mess of everything. Are you happy now? The room went dead silent. Beth continued, her voice getting louder and more hysterical. I screwed up. I threw away my marriage for a man who didn't even care enough to stick around when things got complicated. I tried to manipulate the divorce proceedings to get more money. I lied to my best friend and threatened to destroy her life if she didn't help me. I'm a terrible person and a worse wife, and Jamie deserves so much better than me. She grabbed her purse and pushed past her parents toward the door. The settlement papers are on the bed. Jamie gets whatever he wants. I just want this nightmare to be over. After she left, the room was uncomfortably quiet. Finally, my mother spoke up. Well, that was illuminating. Robert Watterson looked like he'd aged 10 years in the past 5 minutes. I owe you an apology, Jamie. We had no idea how bad things had gotten. It's okay, Mr. Watterson. This has been hard on everyone. Beth's mother, Carol, was crying quietly. Where did we go wrong? How did we raise a daughter who could do these things? I picked up the settlement papers from the bed. Mrs. Watterson, people make mistakes, sometimes big ones. The important thing is learning from them and trying to do better. But even as I said the words, I knew this wasn't over. Beth's public breakdown in front of our parents had just added another layer of complexity to an already complicated situation, and something told me the biggest surprises were still to come. The next morning, I woke up in my temporary apartment to 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. Word of the hotel room confrontation had spread through Portland's gossip network like wildfire, and everyone wanted to know what had really happened. The most important message was from Tom Brennan. Emergency meeting, my office, 9 a.m., bring the settlement papers. I grabbed coffee and a breakfast sandwich from the drive-thru and made it to Tom's office with 5 minutes to spare. He was waiting for me with a grim expression and a stack of legal documents. We have a problem, he said without preamble. Beth's lawyer called me at 7 this morning. She's withdrawing the settlement offer. What? Why? Last night she said she just wanted this to be over. Apparently, her parents convinced her that her emotional breakdown constituted signing under duress. They're claiming you manipulated her into making concessions she wouldn't have made in a normal state of mind. I sat down heavily in the chair across from Tom's desk. That's ridiculous. I didn't manipulate anyone. Her parents are the ones who burst into the room and started yelling. I know. But here's the bigger problem. They're also claiming that you orchestrated the whole thing, that you somehow arranged for her parents to find out about the meeting so they'd catch you together and she'd have an emotional breakdown. How the hell would I even do that? Tom pulled out a piece of paper. Someone called the Wattersons yesterday afternoon and told them Beth was meeting you at the Riverside Inn. The caller claimed to be a concerned friend who thought they should know their daughter was making a mistake. My blood ran cold. Do they know who called? No, it was a woman, but the voice was disguised or muffled. Could have been anyone. I thought about the cast of characters in this drama. Kelly? That's my guess. But we can't prove it, and even if we could, it doesn't help our situation. Beth's team is now claiming this whole thing was an elaborate setup designed to pressure her into a bad deal. I rubbed my temples, feeling a headache coming on. So, where does that leave us? Back to square one, but worse. They're refiling the harassment charges, adding emotional manipulation and conspiracy, and they want to depose everyone who was in that hotel room last night. Including my mother? Including your mother. I pulled out my phone and called Marco. I need you to do me a favor. Find Kelly Morrison and bring her to the shop. Don't take no for an answer. What's going on? I'll explain when you get there. Just find her. 2 hours later, Marco walked into Parish Electric with Kelly in tow. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. Dark circles under her eyes, clothes wrinkled, hands shaking slightly. Sit down, Kelly, I said, pointing to a chair in my office. We need to talk. Jamie, I can explain. Did you call Beth's parents yesterday? She looked down at her hands. I thought if they saw you two together, they'd realize Beth was still trying to manipulate the situation. I thought they'd talk some sense into her. Kelly, do you have any idea what you've done? Beth's lawyers are now claiming I orchestrated the whole thing. They're saying I used you to set up an elaborate trap. That's not what happened. I was trying to help you. By sabotaging a settlement negotiation that would have ended this whole mess, Kelly, that settlement was the best possible outcome for everyone involved. Marco, who'd been listening from the doorway, stepped forward. Lady, I don't know you very well, but you've got to stop trying to help. Every time you get involved, things get worse. Kelly started crying. I just felt so guilty about lying for Beth all those months. I wanted to make it right. Then tell the truth, I said. All of it. To my lawyer, to Beth's lawyer, to whoever needs to hear it. No more games, no more schemes, just the truth. What if Beth tries to destroy me like she threatened? I leaned forward in my chair. Kelly, Beth doesn't have any power to destroy you anymore. Her own parents barely want to speak to her right now. Her lover ran off to Seattle. Half the town knows she's been lying and manipulating people. What exactly do you think she can do to you that's worse than what you're doing to yourself?" Kelly wiped her eyes and looked up at me. "What do you want me to do?" "I want you to call Tom Brennan and tell him everything. Every lie you told, every favor Beth asked you to do, every threat she made, every stupid surveillance mission you went on. All of it. And then what? Then you go home to your husband and try to repair your marriage, and you stay away from me and Beth and this whole situation until the divorce is final." After Kelly left, Marco and I sat in my office, trying to figure out our next move. "This is getting crazy, man," Marco said. "Maybe you should just give her whatever she wants and walk away." "I can't do that. It's not about the money anymore, Marco. It's about the principle. Beth has been lying and manipulating and threatening people for months. If she gets rewarded for that behavior, what's to stop her from doing it to the next guy?" My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Meet me at Murphy's Bar tonight, 8 p.m. Come alone. We need to finish this. B." I showed the message to Marco. "What do you think?" "I think you should bring backup." She said, "Come alone." "Yeah, and last time you followed her instructions, you ended up in a hotel room with 3 angry parents. Maybe it's time to stop playing by her rules." I thought about it. Marco was right. Every time I'd tried to handle this situation reasonably and maturely, Beth had found a way to turn it against me. Maybe it was time for a different approach. "Okay," I said. "But if we're going to do this, we're going to do it right." I called Tom Brennan and filled him in on the plan. Then I called the one person I knew I could count on to help me end this once and for all. "Mom, it's Jamie. I need a favor, a big one." That evening, I walked into Murphy's Bar at exactly 8 p.m. Beth was sitting at our old table in the back, nursing a glass of wine and looking nervous. She dressed up for the occasion. Black dress, heels, makeup carefully applied to hide the stress of the past few weeks. "Thank you for coming," she said as I sat down across from her. "Let's get this over with, Beth. What do you want?" She took a sip of wine and looked around the bar. It was relatively quiet for a Thursday night, just a few regulars at the bar and a couple playing pool in the corner. "I want to apologize," she said, "for everything. The affair, the lies, the way I've handled this divorce. You deserved better." "Okay, apology noted. Is that it?" "I also want to make you an offer. A real offer this time, not something my parents can claim was made under duress." She pulled out a new set of papers. 60-40 split in your favor. You keep the house, the business, your retirement accounts. I take my car, my personal belongings, and 40% of our joint savings. No alimony, no ongoing obligations. I looked at the papers. It was actually a better deal than the 50-50 split she'd offered before. "What's the catch?" "No catch. I just want this to be over. I want to move on with my life, and I want you to be able to move on with yours." "And the harassment charges?" "Dropped, completely. Kelly already called my lawyer and explained that she was acting on her own. We know you weren't behind the surveillance." I studied Beth's face, looking for signs of deception or manipulation. She seemed sincere, but then again, she'd seemed sincere 8 months ago when she'd promised to love and honor me until death do us part. "Why should I trust you this time?" Beth reached into her purse and pulled out a small digital recorder. "Because this time, I'm not the only one who knows what's being said." She pressed play, and my voice filled the air. "Let's get this over with, Beth. What do you want?" I stared at her. "You're recording this conversation?" "We both are." She nodded toward the bar, where I now noticed Marco sitting with a beer and his phone conspicuously placed on the bar top. "Your friend has been recording since you walked in." I looked around the bar more carefully and spotted 2 other familiar faces, Tom Brennan at a corner table and my mother, Ruth, sitting at the other end of the bar reading a newspaper. "You knew I'd bring backup." "Of course I did. Just like you knew I'd try to record our conversation. We've been married for 8 years, Jamie. We know each other's moves." Despite everything, I found myself smiling slightly. "So what now? We both have recordings of each other making reasonable offers. Now we both sign the papers, shake hands, and walk away. No more games, no more manipulation, no more trying to outsmart each other. Just a clean ending to a marriage that should have ended months ago." I looked at the settlement papers again. The terms were fair, more than fair, actually. And I was tired. Tired of the legal battles, tired of the gossip, tired of living in limbo. "One condition," I said. "You leave Kelly alone, completely. No threats, no manipulation, no contact at all." "Agreed. And if you ever try to come after me or my business or my family again, these recordings get released to everyone we know." "Understood." I pulled out a pen and signed the papers. Beth signed them as well, and we both dated them. So that's it? I asked. We're done? Beth stood up and extended her hand. We're done. I shook her hand, and for just a moment, I saw a flash of the woman I'd fallen in love with all those years ago. Then she picked up her purse, nodded to my assembled backup team, and walked out of Murphy's bar for the last time. Marco came over to the table as I was putting the signed papers in my jacket pocket. How do you feel? He asked. I thought about it. I felt relieved. I felt sad. I felt like I'd just closed a chapter of my life that I'd never be able to reopen. But mostly, I felt free. I feel like buying you a beer, I said. As Marco went to get our drinks, my mother came over and sat down next to me. Are you okay? She asked. Yeah, Mom. I think I am. She patted my hand. Good, because that girl put you through hell and you handled it better than most men would have. Thanks for coming tonight. I know this whole situation has been hard on you too. Jamie, you're my son. When someone hurts you, they hurt me too. But it's over now, and you can start fresh. I looked around Murphy's bar, the same place where this whole mess had started with Beth's public toast to honest relationships. It seemed fitting that it would end here too. My phone buzzed with a text from Tom Brennan. Papers look good. I'll file them first thing Monday morning. Congratulations on your freedom. Freedom. That was exactly what this felt like. Marco returned with our beers, and we raised them in a toast. To new beginnings, he said. To honest relationships, I replied. And for the first time in months, I meant it.